Julie Smith-David at the W.P. Carey School of Business at Arizona State University. This is a short video in a series of videos to help you understand how to create UML class diagrams and use them as the design documents to create a relational database. In this video, we're going to be focusing exclusively on creating the new database in Access and creating its tables. If you're unfamiliar with creating the UML class diagram or enhancing it to prepare for the database, please move to the prior video. After you've completed creating your tables, then you're going to want to continue with the next video that shows how to implement the associations between them. In case you haven't been watching this video series, we've been working on developing a design document for how you'd model an emergency room's operations. This is the UML diagram that we've created, and then in the prior video we enhanced it with how to implement the associations. For this video, I'm going to implement a small portion of the diagram. I'm going to focus on two tables, the operation table and the doctor table, and then I want to make sure that you remember how we will be ready to implement the association and what that meant for the tables themselves. So as you know, each class in the diagram is going to become a table in our database. And so each class here, the operation and the doctor, will be a table. In order to be ready to implement the association, the rule that we have for how to do that with one-to-many relationships is that we look at the multiplicities and we identify the maximums. And the saying is we take the key from the one and we add it to the many. In this case, you notice the maximum multiplicity of 1 is closest to the doctor table. The maximum multiplicity of many is closest to the operation table. That means we're going to take the key from doctor and add it as a foreign key into the operation table. And we've done that by adding a new attribute called doctor number. We named it doctor number instead of employee number so that it would be more descriptive to a user who was just looking at the operation table. In order to implement this, we're going to create a new database in Access, and so I'm shifting my screen to see the Access window. When you start Access, you'll be able to create a new database. And so if I click on this new blank database, over on the right-hand side of the screen, it allows me to name this database. And I'm going to name it Operation Doctor because that's the small portion of the system that I'm going to be looking at. You could use the folder window to specify the location of your database if you wanted to store it somewhere other than the default. And then just click Create. Now I have a new database, and you see at the top that it's called Operation Doctor. Now I'm going to create two tables. The system knows that because it's a new database, it's likely the first thing I'll want to do to create is tables. And so it's created one new table, although it hasn't given it a name yet, and it shows me that table in the table view. The only attribute that it specified is ID, because remember, every table in a database needs to have a unique identifier. Well, this table view is great for looking at the data that's in a database, but it's not very good for designing the database table. And so in your upper left-hand corner, you'll see that there's an icon with a ruler, a pencil, a triangle. If you click on that, you'll switch to the database, to the design view, but you need to name your table first. You need to save it. So I'm going to call this table the operation table, save it, and now I'm in the design view. I can enter in all of the fields and specify the data types for each. Now, Access, because it doesn't know anything about this table, just names the primary key field ID. I want to rename that and call it operation number. Now it's been set up as an auto number. What that means is that every time a new record is entered into this table, the system will automatically increment the operation number so that every time it's a unique number. That's a great technique to use to maintain high-quality data in your database. So I'm going to leave that field as an auto number field. The next field that I'm going to try to enter is the date field. And in our design documents, we just called that date. Well, when I try to do that, Access is going to tell me that this is a reserved word. And so it's not good policies to name something a reserved word. So I'm going to call this operation date. And I'm going to specify the data type. Now, all attributes default to text data, but really I want the system to check and make sure that the user is entering in a date and time for my operation. The next attribute is the description. which is a text field, and I'm just tabbing between the different cells on the screen, and then my foreign key, doctor number. I've got to change the type for the doctor number because when we create the doctor table, we'll use the auto number data type there also. In this case, therefore, I need to make this a number so that I'll be able to link between the doctor number here and the employee number in the doctor table. These are the only attributes I need for this table, so I've completed the design of my operation table, and I want to start creating the implementation of my doctor table. Well, there's nothing up here to create a new table, so I have to switch to the Create tab, and that will allow me to create another table. Again, that doesn't have a name, but when I switch to the design view, it's going to ask me for the name, and I'm going to call this one Doctor. And I'm going to call this Employee Number. Leave it the auto number, and then last name, which is text, first name, which is also text, specialty, which is a text, and the board certification date, which I'm going to make a date field. Now you notice that sometimes I didn't use the pull-down window. As you get more familiar with Access, you can just type in the first letter of many fields, and Access will go to that position in the pull-down. So I just entered a D, and it became a date. At this point, now I have two tables. I can see each of these tables by looking at the different tabs. I can close these tables, closing just one. It'll ask me again if I want to save it, and I do. If I wanted to reopen it, I'd double-click on it, and it would open again. It always opens in the table view, and now actually I'd be able to enter data. We're going to leave that for 2 video segments from now, so please, if you want to continue how to design the database, follow up from this video by going to the next, which will help us create the database, implement the associations as relationships.